felt like Steve segued in pretty good to what I wanted to talk about anyway, but I'm going to back up a minute before I dive into it and talk about the GLC in general. I went to a couple of breakouts. You guys have heard a lot about it, and it was really a great opportunity. I feel really supported and lucky the opportunity to go. So a couple of the things that we did, there was one breakout panel. Jen and I actually attended a technology panel. You guys know this year we've kind of, we did the volunteer database thing, and one of the main points of the volunteer database that I'd like to bring up is that when we redeveloped it, we designed it the way that we were developing it so that other people could participate. Bug did a phenomenal job. He did a great job with the database, but he was basically working as one man in a bubble. And this time we're trying to set it up so that anybody can contribute. And there's a little fundamental part of that that's important. Now, Burning Man right now is really just looking at their massive ecosystem of talent that's out there and realizing, my God, we have really incredible people all around the world who are working on the same kinds of problems, and how can we bring them together? And this is one of many panels that we had at the summit. Another one that I only went to, nobody else I know of from Colorado attended, was on crisis management. What do you do in a situation of a crisis? And one of my favorite ones that they talked about was, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but it's just a matter of time before the rains hit one time before everybody makes it off playa. And if the rains come before they get the cars out, the cars aren't going out. It's just not happening. It's not physically possible. They thought it was happening one year. The rain hit the front gate, and they were down for 4 hours waiting for the puddle to dry up because you can't drive through it, So these are the kind of problems that they're talking about dealing with. But with crisis, they're also talking about they had a missing girl one year. They've had deaths out there. They've had some really serious issues. And well, the number one takeaway from that was don't speculate. Don't get up in front of a camera and say, well, what we think happened was, nah, it's not real good. No, you say, this is what we know. This is what we've learned. This is what we're working on. And then you go talk to your team and you work on the problem. The speculation thing has got to be the absolute. You guys have seen what happens in the community lately when speculation
Send them a misinformation booth.
You want that away. So we had all these panels and they were great, but there was this one piece that when I heard it, I was like, okay, this is the thing that I want to talk to Apogaea Ignition about, and it was about inheriting positions. And I believe it was Maid Marian who said this, and I could be wrong. If anybody else that was there, if you correct me, please do. She is now, I believe, the CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit that is Burning Man, and as much as anybody else, she's seen this transition thing happening. And there are a lot of really intense positions at Burning Man. You're running an event with 70,000 people, but then you have all of these little regional events where all of us get together and say, well, we want to try that, and we do, and it works, and we find all this community support, and we get into all these roles, and we do all these things, and it's really fun, but we develop something that's more concrete that we pass off to another generation. And I'd like to thank Caroline in particular for a lot of her input and effort in designing the thing that is Apogaea that was handed off to me. She put an enormous amount of energy into things that I appreciate very, very deeply about this organization. It was a lot of the design of this organization that attracted me to it, and part of that design is the fact that it's got this revolving door built into it, where as a board member I'm there for 3 years and then I'm out, and that's it. That's as long as I get to impact my change. It's that impermanence that I was talking about. I don't get to be president of you guys for 10 years and build my identity behind it. I don't get to assume that I am president and that's who I am. This is just a role that you guys let me step into to see how I could perform, to support me in it, to let me feel this joy of getting to be part of something and to contribute, and hopefully to walk away from it as a better person than who I came into it as. And that's a kind of gift, a kind of community change. That the art is amazing and it impacts people, but this is something that's constantly going on behind the scenes. And when Maid Marian stood up on the stage and she talked about this, she talked about it as there is no greater gift in what we're doing than taking this position that you've cared about and you've invested in, and this niche that you've built, and this thing and this change that you've made, and finding a way to hand it off to the next person. That's so hard. And it's definitely harder than this organization. So as you guys look at this org chart over here that Jen put a ton of work into, one of the things that you'll notice that wasn't here about 2 years ago was this concept called an XO. And I'm about to show you guys where the concept came from. You guys may remember we had a guy involved in this organization. His name was Kingpin. You might have known him, and last year he was in this presidential
He doesn't
role.
exist anymore. He got married this week.
So I just stuck this USB key in there. Let's see what I got on there.
Koda, was that the same talk that Marion gave about the strawberries?
Yes.
Yes.
Strawberry plants?
Well, I look for this file. Will you share that?
That totally made me cry. So she got surprised, right? So she was talking about how what's happening with the burner world, just to put it simply, is like a strawberry plant. You know, like there's one event that's the mother event, and then there's like these little shoots that go out, and the longer they're there. The more they grow, and then they grow, and they send off their own shoots. And so she was talking about how Burning Man was the mama strawberry plant, you know. And I was just like, I even wrote in my notes. I was like, strawberries.
Strawberries make me cry.
So I got a lot of pride because I think I'm participating in one of the coolest strawberry plants. I like our strawberry plant a lot. We were a 501c3 before Burning Man, right? And there's this other thing that came up in a very awkward conversation with one of our regional representatives that I thought was really enlightening. Now, don't take this wrong.
Okay.
And you're going to see the camera.
BRAF is a different organization than we are, doing a lot of things that we are not. This is not apples to apples, but it was mentioned that BRAF gave out about $70,000 worth of an art grant.
Totally.
And Apogaea was like, really, we give out 50.
I told my friend that, and everyone was like,
Right? So we're doing some things right now. Now, one of my biggest concerns lately is that we'll catch too much momentum and we'll forget about some little parts, and then we'll be one of those little things that, like, you know, explodes and little pieces keep rolling, like the skier who falls down and makes a yard sale. But yeah, hopefully that's not what we do. If it is, it could be fun too. So this picture here, this is from Battlestar Galactica. Is anybody a fan? Anybody?
Oh yeah.
How are you doing?
Do you guys know who this is here? Saul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the XO. So it was a conversation about Battlestar Galactica. I know Kingpin was there. I don't know who else was, but this is where triple XOs got their start. It was this notion that, you know, this guy's a leader. He's not always there, and when he's not, we have this guy. And in Apogaea, we have a little bit of entrenchment, but not a lot. We have a couple of folks who have had their positions for a long time. They really solidly identify that this is who I am within this community. And as much as I think that's a beautiful thing, it's also a very risky thing, because these are opportunities for people to grow. Like, you guys let me be president, you guys let me work on the communications team, you guys are all getting to enjoy a lot of different roles, and I know that I don't get many more out of it than I do in the very beginning. Whenever I'm learning and I'm changing and I'm influencing, I'm getting to impact that change. And by year 3 or 4, when I'm starting to burn out and I just don't want to do this anymore, but I feel like I have to, when you ever feel like you have to, it's not the same thing anymore. You know? So with this idea of an XO, you'll find it over here on the org charts quite a bit. I actually have a screenshot here.
Can you tell us what an XO means?
XO
Please, for the love of God.
is the second in command.
Like executive officer?
Executive officer. We call them triple XOs. Now there was this interesting misunderstanding.
Kiss, hug.
I would like that better.
I really don't like this whole Windows 8 thing. Like, just a minute ago I was on a screen I understood, and now
Buy Start 8. Costs $5.
there's a folder. Okay.
That was an ad.
So with an Apogaea placement here, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn! Shucks, I was hoping to catch him. See over here we have triple XO placement. The idea here, you know, that we have Luke, and then we have this role here, so that this year, as Luke is defining, redefining, changing, growing, evolving, or whatever, he has an individual that's paying attention, who's there as his second, who knows what's going on, who understands, who has that institutional knowledge. That's the #1 problem with me only getting 3 years on this board. One of the #1 reasons that I got elected is because I've been here long enough that I can answer a lot of questions about, well, this is the way that we did it in the past. And that's hugely valuable. It's this value that we get from avoiding entrenchment, in my opinion, trumps the loss of value from this institutional knowledge. Because I feel like the institutional knowledge is something that we can solve. And this opportunity to let people cycle in and out and add their energy and their influence is far more valuable than, you know, having somebody entrenched in there who's like, yeah, this is the way we've done it for 15 years, so this is how we're going to do it this year. This doesn't work for me. This triple XO position, this mentality, this idea that we introduced last year and we kind of just, you know, touched on this year, is the idea that this person, if you're gone, can take over for you. Maybe that's not what happens. Maybe when you leave next year, this person doesn't take over with you, but now you know that this person knows how the job is done. And one of our biggest problems is people step in and they're like, well, I just took on a new role today. I don't really know what that role is or what you guys want me to do. I'm here for you. I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. Has anybody felt like they don't know what they're doing? So
I know what's going on all the time.
right.
Said right here.
But why isn't it triple XO?
This triple XO. Okay, this is really
fun.
funny. Before I explain why, I want to explain one of the misconceptions that came from this. They thought that an XO was second in command, and an XXO was third in command, and an XXXO was fourth in command. And I was like, well, that's a really intuitive explanation. No, there were 3 X's only because there was an innuendo.
So say we all!
Triple XO is purely innuendo. So what I would propose is that if you guys look at this org chart, you'll find that these are scattered all over the place, kind of haphazardly, sort of like our red shirts right now. So I'd like to see a couple of changes next year. One of them regarding the red shirts is just understanding their full intention, right? So right now I've talked to you guys a little bit about the importance of electing in really good board members. I would like to see more of the board members coming up through this sort of level of accountability in the organization where they're just volunteering as regular volunteers at the event, and then they're a red shirt, which is effectively like a very dedicated volunteer who isn't so involved that they want to be involved in elections and that sort of thing, but they're definitely getting a grasp of what it's about. And then you have this ignition level where now I've crossed the line, I'm actually part of the organization, I've taken on just a little bit of accountability because I'm actually an employee of a 501c3 nonprofit corporation.
We get paid?
None. You get the votes. And then a step up from that, now we have, as you guys may see, ground control. It's definitely a higher level of responsibility because chances are if you're in ground control, you actually have to tell other people stuff. Like you don't just get to be at the bottom of the chain of communication and like do shit. Now you have to like, you know, and bottom is really a bad word because it's more like you get hit from every direction, I tell you. But then, you know, this board member thing, I would like to really see where it reaches a point where once somebody has shown that they're really solid in all these situations, like, you know, that person make a really good board member. We should vote them in. Regardless, you know, that's the red shirt notion. That's the ground control notion. The XO notion, the one that I really want to try to sell, and I'm going to bring this up again at the retreat, is that everywhere in the organization that we have positions of leadership, we should be thinking, you know, should we automatically just assume there's an XO position for this? And that whoever owns this and is growing this and doing this can have this other individual by their side. And one of the things that we thought of was, well, maybe we should have co-leads in case one has to go away. Well, something bad happens when we do co-leads. We tried this and it turns out like if you don't actually say one person is accountable, then you get 2 stories. And as soon as that happens, you don't know what to do. So this XO notion, this notion that you are the XO and I'm in charge. When I'm gone, you are accountable, you are dealing with this. That real clear, concise, and fallback method I think is something that's going to help this organization in the future.